The Pittsburgh Steelers hit with some massive news today. So as me and the rest of the media members, the rest of the Pittsburgh Steelers organization is sitting there watching practice, one thing stood out above literally everything, and that is that Russell Wilson was not on the field, at least not participating. Afterwards, Mike Tomlin said that his calf injury had some tightness just before practice today, and because of that, they held him out. They'll evaluate him tomorrow. He'll probably get checked as a precaution, he says, but it's still a giant mystery. This is 2 days before the Pittsburgh Steelers travel to Atlanta. You only have one practice remaining after this, and while a guy that's 35 years old playing quarterback, typically this is nothing. But a guy who has missed most of the summer with a calf injury was trying as hard as humanly possible to play it off as this was nothing, this is not a big deal, this is whatever. We're sitting here 3 days before kickoff, 3 days before week one, and he misses a practice because it flares up and it is tight again. I think it's a cause for concern. The Pittsburgh Steelers have to be, to some degree, preparing for a change and for Justin Fields to have to take over if need be. And on top of this, this is the first, okay, is this going to be an all-season thing warning sign? Because you were kind of hoping the calf injury was what it was. It was no big deal. They played it as safe as humanly possible. They got into the regular season. Now it's gone. We never have to worry about it again. Instead, you're starting to think, okay, for one, maybe this was a little bit more serious than we anticipated it being, than we maybe have fallen for it because they tried to play it off as hard as they could. And is it going to last all year long? I mean, this raises a billion questions for the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially when it comes to a guy in Justin Fields sitting behind him. But 2 days before, I got a lot of thoughts on this. I'll let you explain yours before I dive into it any further. You saw the news, I mean, maybe an hour ago. What were your thoughts as it happened?
Yeah, it is cause for concern for me because the one thing that I've been saying this entire preseason about Russ's calf injury is it makes me think of last year whenever Joe Burrow had a similar injury to his calf, and he wasn't really right until probably game 7 is when we saw him at his best. Joe Burrow is not 35 years old, though, so that's why I was concerned about it. I was happy to not hear about it at all throughout the preseason once Russ got back onto the field, but the fact that it flares up, not just a couple days before the season, but the fact that it flares up in day 2 of practice this week.
Yep.
Yesterday, whenever they had their first injury report come out, he was nowhere to be seen on it. But today, a second day into the week, that makes me a little bit concerned. Of course, there's still a lot to be determined. They're saying they're just exercising an abundance of caution, which is good. But at the same time, I do have a little bit of concern because you look at what happened last year with Burrow. Russell Wilson's a little bit older. If it's starting to bother him once again, about a month and a half later, it's not a good sign. Let's just say that.
Yeah, no, you look at it right now and you got to think, what does the season look like for Russell Wilson and the Pittsburgh Steelers? And where do you go from here? Because if this is an all season long thing, if this is you have to be cautious about Russ's play on the field, how much can you actually do with him? Can you keep him out there week to week? Is this going to mean a once a week he's good, the next week he's not? Is he going to turn into, I mean, shout out Larry Ogunjobi, man. He's played all summer long, and last season he didn't practice once, it felt like. Is that going to be Russell Wilson this season? That raises a ton of questions, and it raises almost no concern if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, massive concern still in this alternate universe, but if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and Kyle Allen is your backup quarterback, you don't even talk about this. You're just hoping for the best. Russ is going to be out there. I'm feeling optimistic Russ is going to play. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to push him as hard as they could possibly push him every single week, and they're going to be as cautious as they could during the practice time and then play him to make sure that they're not missing a beat. You got a guy like Justin Fields behind him. You got to think things change. What's up, guys? It's football season, and we've teamed up with DraftKings. Right now, new customers who bet $5 will receive $250 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, you'll receive 1 month of NFL Plus Premium. It's hard to think of a better way to celebrate fall weather, your favorite jersey, and Sunday touchdowns than with the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Download the DraftKings app and use our promo code ALLSTEELERS. That's $250 in bonus bets instantly and 1 month of NFL Plus Premium after betting just $5. Stay in the action and use your $250 in bonus bets to bet anytime touchdowns on DraftKings. DraftKings is the place to bet touchdowns. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You could still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have the shot to win cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use my promo code ALLSTEELERS and bet just $5 on any wager and get $250 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code ALLSTEELERS only at DraftKings Sportsbook. You have to think that they look at this and say, okay, if this is going to be an all the time thing, do we make a change at quarterback at some point? Do you know, how good does Justin have to be before you seriously consider, let's go with the healthy guy who's younger over Russ, who's injured and probably can't give us 100% all season? Can Russ run all of Arthur Smith's offense, which definitely includes a mobile quarterback with a calf injury? And can he do that all season long? There are massive questions that come from today, not from yesterday, not from training camp, not from him missing the preseason. None of that. You could overlook all of that. You could overlook him being hurt and dealing with the calf injury every single day up until today. Today, you look at it and you say, okay, we're in the regular season. Now it counts. Now you have to be as good as you can possibly be. And maybe Russ isn't capable of giving the Pittsburgh Steelers what they need in a quarterback right now. And I'm not saying play-wise. I'm just saying health-wise and what the offense is supposed to look like and what they're supposed to run. And you have another option in Justin Fields that maybe you look at and say, well, he can do everything that we're looking for him to do. He's not as good as Russell Wilson. Like, I'll admit that. I think throwing the football, Russell Wilson's head and shoulders above Justin Fields. And I don't think Justin Fields is a capable starting quarterback right now where we stand, but I think he's got the potential to be. And I think he could run, and he's as athletic as they come for a quarterback. You got to question if the Pittsburgh Steelers' minds start turning about the what ifs now that Russ is sitting here missing practice, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. Let me ask you this. If you're the Steelers and Russ does not practice tomorrow, are you playing him on Sunday?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, he is a veteran. So you look at this, and even knowing that he is in a new system, that he's on a new team, you understand that he's probably got a good grasp of the playbook, and he probably has enough of a chemistry with these guys to be able to go out and play. But the one thing that stands out to me is considering the uncertainty and the health of the offensive line, that makes me more concerned. That makes me more concerned throwing a guy out there with a bum wheel and saying, all right, try to figure it out, because the offensive line has several question marks already. For that reason, I'd probably lean towards Justin Fields, especially if Russell Wilson is not good to practice tomorrow.
Yeah, I think I look at it the same way. Is that if Russ does not practice tomorrow, my thought is he can't run this offense the way that the Steelers need him to run this offense. And if you had a loaded offensive line, if you had a great wide receiver core, if you knew you had no reason for concern on offense and things were going to be just fine, you play Russell Wilson because he's your starting quarterback and you think you could get enough out of him to make this work. But where the Pittsburgh Steelers currently stand, their quarterback needs to win them games, needs to be able to go out there and do the extra stuff because they don't have the extra stuff around him. And right now, I don't think Russ can do that. And that's a huge concern. So let me ask you the next question that comes with that. Justin goes out there and throws for 300 yards. Hypothetical, big hypothetical.
Justin it is his home state, so let's not rule it out.
True. Very true. Very true. Justin goes out there, throws for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, looks good, runs for a lot. The Steelers win. Is this Russ's job, or did Russ just lose his job with the Steelers?
That is a hard one, especially knowing what the week 2 opponent is. And I know that shouldn't play a role in this, but knowing who the week 2 opponent is, I think it does end up playing a role in this. It would be even tougher. That's a horrible decision to make, because you have Justin Fields, who, by all accounts, had a pretty impressive preseason. He showed his warts. Those warts have been there his entire career. Can he grow out of them eventually? Sure. That's a conversation that we've always had, but they still went with Russ after that. The fact that he's injured, even if he comes back next week after missing a week, is he going to be 100% again? I think if Justin Fields goes out and does what you're saying he does, and again, in a hypothetical land where he throws for 300, he leads
Yeah.
him to victory, he scores multiple touchdowns, I think you got to roll with him until the wheels fall off here, because as we've said several times, Steelers are not linked to either of these quarterbacks past this season, and you're trying to get the best out of this season as you can. I think you roll with the guy that's the hot hand, and if that's the case, Justin would be the hot hand, and Russ would probably still not be 100%.
Yeah, I agree. And this is a good point by Stephen Cornfield here. If Russ sits any early games and Fields balls out, then at that point it's Justin's time in pole position. I agree. And I think that the Steelers might play it the same way, where they look at it and say, look, there'll be a quarterback competition next week. We'll see what happens. But Justin's probably going to take more team one reps. And let's be totally honest. Let's lay this right out here, that the way we think and the way we operate and what makes sense in our heads doesn't always, and most times really doesn't ever, make sense in Mike Tomlin's head, and is not the way he rolls with his job. So there is equally as good of a shot that Justin Fields goes out there, has the game of his life, and Mike Tomlin walks in on Tuesday and says Russell Wilson is our starting quarterback no matter what. Everyone has to remember that. And I do not, I disagree 100% if that ends up being the case, but there is definitely a possibility that situation happens and Mike Tomlin refuses to acknowledge it. But these are all hypotheticals. These are all, and this is the Pittsburgh Steelers. We don't live in hypotheticals. So this is a massive question, but it's huge news for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is something to monitor. This is tomorrow's biggest conversation. This is the weekend's biggest conversation. I don't think there's any chance the Steelers rule out Russ if he does not play or if he does not practice tomorrow. I think at bare minimum, he's questionable. But if you go into questionable, by Saturday, they'll know, which means that me and you will probably know by Saturday as well, one way or another, whether or not Justin Fields or Russell Wilson is going to be that guy. But it's a big one. On top of that, the Pittsburgh Steelers, Russell Wilson limited, Roman Wilson limited as well, continues to be. Corey Trice gets upgraded to full along with Jaylen Warren. That's awesome. And Troy Fautanu, which is great news. Darnell Washington, hit with the knee injury, did not practice. Saw him wobbling around yesterday. That's never a good sign this early. Something to monitor. For right now, we'll keep it as this could be tough. That's another big loss for the Steelers. But Troy Fautanu coming back, that's big, which means you don't have to rely on your tight ends to block as much. And Michael Pruitt, I think it's his time to shine if Darnell does not play in week 1. But that is your Thursday injury report for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's talk about game time. I could still taste the popcorn and the soda and smell the beer of my first Pittsburgh Steelers game. And yeah, the Jacksonville Jaguars might have won that day, but I will never forget how loud Heinz Field was and how rocking that stadium was on the North Shore. GameTime has this new feature called GameTime Picks that makes things like getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. GameTime Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I have an upcoming concert in Cleveland the day after the Pittsburgh Steelers play against the Browns, and instead of sitting there clicking on every single section, I'm just going to use GameTime Picks. Let's talk about why it's so great. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. On top of that, you get all-in pricing, which means that you get the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. On top of that, you get seat views because nobody wants to buy some nosebleed seats for cheap and take a guess on whether you're staring at a pole or you just got the greatest deal in the entire venue. Plus, the lowest price guaranteed, or GameTime will credit you 110% of the difference. GameTime ticket coverage means that your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code ALLSTEELERS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code ALLSTEELERS for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, low prices, guaranteed.